Welcome, everyone. We are live with another episode of Level Up Law, where every Tuesday at noon here at South Carolina Legal Services, we are leveling up your legal knowledge about an area of law that we practice in. I'm Susan Ingalls, Senior Staff Attorney and host of Level Up Law. And as always, our producer, Kenneth Elliott, from our IT department is here, making sure everything is running properly for us in the background. Today, we are joined by Sinead James, who you are viewing on your screen right now. Sinead is a staff attorney in our Conway office and the head of our Cultural Humility Unit. So welcome, Sinead. But before we get started, we first always click that QR code that you see on your screen, and you can sign up for our newsletter. You can link to some of our educational resources, and you can also donate to South Carolina Legal Services, so we always welcome that. We also want to remind you, of course, as we always do, that this is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public, but it is important information. So if you need the help of a lawyer, you can call our intake line here at Legal Services, or you can apply online. That information will be provided for you in today's presentation. Also, as a reminder, all of our episodes of Level Up Law are posted by our wonderful producer, Kenneth Elliott, to our Level Up Law playlist on our YouTube channel. So you can pretty quickly go there and watch this particular episode or any other episode, which I think we have well over 100 episodes of Level Up Law now. We're knocking on the door of 200 one of these days. So definitely go check that out. You can probably find an episode that will help you out in any particular area of law that you might be needing to get some information on. So having said all of that, let's get started. Sinead, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you for having me, Susie. Today we're going to be talking about LGBTQ plus client legal issues after a name change or identity marker change. All right, so in order to effectively represent our clients who are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, we must approach our work with cultural humility. Cultural humility is a process of reflection to gain a deeper understanding of cultural differences in order to improve the way vulnerable groups are treated. Cultural humility does not focus on competence, but instead recognizes that the more you are exposed to cultures that are different from your own, the more you realize what you don't know about others. It's crucial that we as legal advocates and attorneys provide our services through what's called a cultural humility lens, because by being able to understand and recognize the challenges of these groups, we are therefore able to help push forward in closing the access to justice gap. So first up, we're going to talk about transgender and non-binary consumers who are seeking to preserve their credit history following the legal change of their first and middle names. So updating your credit report. So no demographic information such as gender, age, race, or sexual orientation, or either ethnicity or religion is included in your credit report. The issue that people run into is that once they transition and legally change their name, their credit history may still be connected to what's called their dead name, and that person may be forced to establish new credit history. A person's dead name is the name they transition from or their birth name. And this really is an issue for people who have worked hard to maintain a great credit history for so long, because now, since they've changed their name and they've taken the proper steps to do things the right way, they're not able to benefit from their great credit history from before and will potentially have to start over by establishing new credit history. This can also unintentionally out a person who has transitioned. last name versus first or middle name. So traditionally, when a person gets married or divorced and they change their last name, they only have to contact their banks to let them know of their name change. And then the credit bureaus will be notified once that bank updates that client's credit file. For consumers who are transgender or non-binary, who may be seeking to change their first and middle names, they have to take an extra step. These consumers would not only need to notify their banks, but also the 3 nationwide credit bureaus. This can be done by calling them directly or using their online systems. They will also require documentation such as court orders, an updated social security card with your new name on it, or an updated driver's license with your new name on it. So when providing documentation to the credit bureaus to prove your identity, you'll have to take 2 steps. One, you need to contact the 3 nationwide credit bureaus to get your credit report fixed manually. The 3 nationwide credit reporting agencies are Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You would contact these agencies by using their process, whether it be online or by mail, or if they don't have a process, then you would just call their customer service line. And then once you've done that, the second step is you would then request that they remove your dead name from your credit report. And remember, your dead name is either the name you transitioned from or your birth name. Okay, so there are many problems that can arise during the process of updating your credit report with your new name. Your credit report may split into 2 or more unconnected files upon the name change, or your updated name and new credit information may not show up on your credit report. And sometimes even after manually fixing the first 2 issues, your fixed credit report may still revert back to being fragmented or split into unconnected files, or it may even be deemed incomplete where no new credit actions are reflected on your report. Also note that if your credit history reflects your dead name or former name, it can show up to potential employers, rental agents, car dealerships, or financial institutions. And this may also be a way where a person may be outed unintentionally, of course. A very important note about the Fair Credit Reporting Act and credit discrimination. When a person is going through the credit application process, a creditor cannot consider your sexual orientation or your gender identity as a factor of approval. In 2020, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Bostock versus Clayton County that the 1964 Civil Rights Act extends not only to sexual discrimination, but discrimination based on gender identity and sexual orientation. In 2021, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau issued an official clarification to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which explicitly states that lenders cannot discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity. A proposed amendment to the Civil Rights Act called the Equality Act is currently waiting approval from the US Senate. If it's approved, there would be no discrimination based on sex in areas such as employment, housing, education, credit, public service, and federally funded programs. Okay, so now we're moving into our next topic, changing gender markers on Social Security documents. So in order to begin the process of changing your identity marker on your Social Security records, you will be asked to provide certain documents. Acceptable documents per the Social Security Administration are number one, a fully amended license or state ID reflecting the preferred gender identity. Number two, a fully amended U.S. passport reflecting the preferred gender identity. A court order directing legal recognition of gender change, or a letter from a licensed physician or psychologist certifying that you have either undergone or are currently undergoing clinical treatment for gender transition. And then once you've decided which document you want to use from that list that I just went over, you can complete an application for a new Social Security card at the web address that's on the screen in bold. Once you've completed the application, you would then need to submit it along with one of the approved documents of your choice, either in person or by mailing it to the Social Security Administration office. So next up, we have how to change your name and gender identity on your U.S. passport. So in order to change your name and gender identity marker on your U.S. passport, you will need a completed application found at any acceptance facility or at the website listed on this slide. Proof of citizenship through a previous U.S. passport or birth certificate or certificate of naturalization. Proof of identity that contains your signature, such as a driver's license or a state ID. A 2x2 color photo of yourself. A court order of the name change, and note that this only applies if the person is seeking to change their name on their passport. It's not needed if the person is just seeking to change their gender identity marker. And also a letter from a licensed physician or psychologist, again, confirming you've either completed gender transition or you are currently completing gender transition. All right. So please note that you only need the letter from the licensed physician or psychologist. You do not need the letter from the physician or psychologist if all of the other documentation that you have has your correct gender identity on it. If you do need to provide a letter, it does not have to list specifics such as the type of treatment or the type of hormones that you were receiving or that you did receive. It just needs to state that you have received clinical treatments necessary for gender transition. So keep that in mind. Also note that if your letter says that you are in the process of transition, you will receive a limited passport with the correct gender identity, and that passport will only be good for 2 years. Per the National Center of Transgender Equality, try to work with your doctor to get the letter that says that you have received treatment, so you do not have to apply for the limited passport. Again, that passport is only good for 2 years, and then you would have to do the process all over again to receive a passport that would be good for longer than that amount of time. All right. And finally, we have discrimination considerations for the LGBTQ plus individuals. So discrepancies between legal and lived equality. While achieving legal victories and ensuring legal protection for LGBTQ plus individuals are vital steps in safeguarding their rights, it is essential to acknowledge that legal equality alone does not guarantee lived equality. Lived equality refers to the actual experiences of LGBTQ plus individuals in their communities and everyday lives. And they may not align with their legal rights and protections. In many parts of the country, the law instead provides a patchwork of protections, and there is no statewide inclusive, non-discrimination protection that fully encompasses employment, housing, and protection in public accommodations. This situation is mirrored in many parts of the country and leads to many discrepancies in the lived realities of LGBTQ plus clients. Patchwork non-discrimination protections. While laws may exist in some areas, non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ plus individuals may be fragmented, varying from city to city, state to state, town to town. And this patchwork nature can leave individuals vulnerable in certain areas and limit their access to broader equal treatment. In practice, this means that a client may have comprehensive housing protections in one city or one state, but may lose those protections when they drive to their house in the suburbs. And that's a really big issue. Inadequate recognition of relationships. LGBTQ plus individuals in committed relationships may face challenges when it comes to their relationships being recognized in the legal world. For example, during a legal marriage, the duration of a legal marriage may not reflect the entirety of a long-term relationship, leading to difficulties in legal matters such as divorce proceedings. Many LGBTQ plus individuals also reside in jurisdictions where laws do not accurately reflect LGBTQ plus families and fails to recognize the parental rights of married same-sex parents. And again, this is also a big issue and it's very, very, very common. Intersectional identities. Intersectionality plays a significant role in the challenges faced by LGBTQ plus individuals. Factors such as race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and disability intersect with sexual orientation and gender identity, resulting in compounded discrimination and systemic barriers that pose access to justice concerns for some of the most vulnerable members of the LGBTQ plus community. So if a person is a minority or has a disability or are poor and they may be, a part of the LGBTQ plus community, that person may suffer from, having to deal with compounded discrimination. So, not only are you a part of this community that some may have an issue with, but you also have these other things that, may make you vulnerable to not being able to have access to certain justices and equality. All right. And here at Legal Services, as I stated before, we strive to approach our work with cultural humility. When it comes to our LGBTQ plus clients, we recognize and value diverse backgrounds, identities, and experiences, and are committed to the approach as the work of cultural humility is everlasting and an ongoing journey. And we are taking the steps to understand our clients and the people that we work with who are different from us and may come from different cultures and backgrounds, while also making sure not to let things like implicit bias get in our way so that we can effectively advocate for them. All right, that's all I have.
Well, thank you so much, Sinead. We really do appreciate you being here. Really good information for the LGBTQ plus community. And I think it's important, as you point out, for folks to know that, they are just like any of our other clients as far as, legal issues they may be facing that may have nothing to do with their sexual orientation or gender identity, but they'll, be welcome here as a client just like anybody else. And, many of the issues that you pointed out today, can definitely be addressed with the help of a lawyer. And so we encourage folks to, check us out at South Carolina Legal Services. You can see here on your screen how to apply by phone or online. Sometimes if you apply online, you might get a call back to confirm information and that sort of thing. But it's a great way. We really have been excited over the last number of years since people have been able to apply online, because, you know, our telephone intake is only open 9 to 6 Monday through Thursday, because they do have, you know, work they have to do on Fridays administratively and so forth. So sometimes if you're working during those hours, you can't call in. So the 24/7 thing, I think, has been really great. I do want to encourage our viewers, whether live or on the replay on YouTube, to check out some other episodes that we have related to this. And then also, you know, the QR code is here, and you can suggest other topics for us, which we always welcome. Just click or scan, I guess, that QR code and fill out the form, and we'll have a look at it and see if we can oblige. We have a couple other episodes that I think are related to what Sinead's been talking about today. One of those is on the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which Sinead mentioned is definitely related to this. Also, how to update your name and gender marker in South Carolina, because, you know, to do some of those things that Sinead was talking about, you got to do that part first. So we have a video that tells you how to do that change in your amended birth certificate and so forth. So check that out as well. So I think that's all the ones I can think of that we have, but we'll link to those in the description below so that you can check those out if you have an interest or need for that. Okay, here's a slide that has all of our great social media handles, and I definitely encourage our audience to go and follow those, you know, like, subscribe, anything you can do to keep an eye on our social media, because we're always linking to new information and resources. We're, you know, letting our really just the general public know about what all we're doing here at South Carolina Legal Services. We highlight all the great things that we're doing. You can find out about clinics in your area, and of course you can always go to sclegal.org, and you can find our calendar there and find out what clinics are going on around the state. So we do have 9 offices around the state. We're showing you again that QR code if you want to sign up for that newsletter and fill that form out for us. That would be great. Sinead, I think that's about it. I want to thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate everything you do as our Cultural and Humility Unit Head, and it was a very excellent and timely presentation because it is Pride Month in June. So we squeezed this in before the June was up, and I'm so happy that you were able to do that for us. I do want to remind our audience that we will post the recording of today's episode on the YouTube channel. So just go to our YouTube channel and look up the Level Up Law playlist. We have several playlists there about different types of topics, different communities that we serve. So Level Up Law has its own playlist there. Now, listen, when you go to our YouTube page, I want you to share this video if you found it helpful, and if you think it might be helpful to others. It may not be helpful to you in particular, but you may know somebody that it could be helpful to. So definitely share it out to anybody that you know or think could be it could be useful to, including, you know, just letting people know about Level Up Law in general, because there's a lot of good information on that playlist. Now, while you are at our YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. We are looking for, you know, more and more subscribers every day, because we want to get all this important information out there. And the more subscribers we have, the more those folks are going to be sharing with other people that they know. So we ask that you do that as well. And check out all the social media now. You can get all the up-to-date information. Now, the final thing is that next Tuesday is July 4th. And our offices will be closed. So we'll all be off next Tuesday, so we won't have an episode of Level Up Law. But definitely be sure to join us the following Tuesday on July 11th for another new episode. Hey, thanks again, Sinead James, for today's presentation. And also thanks to our audience. for tuning in today on Level Up Law. We really appreciate you being here and letting us share all this good information with you. So thanks again, Sinead. That concludes today's webinar.